Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how are you? Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Oh, I'm just selecting the background and I have a beautiful one. Yes, here I am.
It's much more
Yeah, it's very nice.
useful.
It's very nice. And how are you, Arturo?
Great.
Great.
So today we everyone is very excited here. We have a big game in the afternoon.
Who? With whom?
Against Ecuador. So we're playing.
Oh gosh.
Ecuador. So the country basically stopped today. No one is going to office or anything. So just waiting for the match.
And you are the only one there.
Yeah, I guess that the chances are very much in favor of Mexico, isn't it?
Well, you never know. I hope they win, but it's.
But yesterday something interesting happened with Paraguay and Germany.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
The odds were for Germany, and yeah.
And also the game between Morocco and the Netherlands was very exciting too. That one.
Yeah, it's easier to follow the World Championship if you are living somewhere in Mexico than in Budapest, because it's.
I know, and the time was not the best for you.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Oh, it's not. It's horrible. It's horrible.
It was like 4 a.m, something like
that.
So.
So when will your game start?
It starts at 6:30 in the afternoon. So.
Oh gosh! So 6:30, which is like roughly half one.
Around
in the morning.
2 p.m. more or less.
2 p.m.
Yes.
2 a.m.
2 a.m. 2 a.m. Yes, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
yes.
I probably have to skip it.
Yeah, I know.
The coldest hours in Budapest, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Arturo. What if we started it, and I introduced shortly the reason for us being here, and you, and the floor is yours for roughly as we talked like. Yeah. I'm sorry, you haven't met Gabor.
Yeah, I just want to say that we
this is introduction.
We have to introduce to each other.
Gabor is a colleague of ours. He's a businessman running a very great research institute in urban affairs and public affairs, and a scholar too. So I'm very pleased that we can have him as a host, actually, of this event.
Great. That's great. Thanks, Gabor, for the opportunity.
Okay, maybe call each other as Gabor and Arturo. Is it okay for you during the discussion?
Yes,
okay, so
of course,
thank you, Arturo, to accept our invitation for this. As maybe János mentioned previously, then this is not the first time that we discuss some metropolitan areas governance outside Hungary. So maybe you know that there are some changes in Hungary nowadays, and everybody's preparing reform ideas. So maybe the best solution to have it in our mind is to look at all the others' best and worst practices as well. So maybe
exactly.
Don't be shy saying what is good, what is bad. We can learn.
Yeah, I think it's it's good to have this comparative analysis, especially when you are in transition.
Yeah,
and you can bring ideas, and as you said, learn from other places, try to avoid making the same mistakes, and that can save you a lot of time, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Just wait a second. I switch on the lamp because I'm in the shade, which is very nice, actually.
But you have the brightest position, János. I see that you are somewhere in the middle of Budapest, isn't it?
Yes, I am. in virtual background, yes. Nice. Probably a bit better. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. So I will let me share the screen with you.
Wait. First, let me just do the introduction, and then I'll give the floor to you.
Okay. Already we have the recording. We have.
Yes,
we are
recording. I mean, the Zoom is
we are being
set
recorded
for 3 hours, but we agreed on 1 hour.
Yeah.
So we can do as much as we can.
Great.
So welcome everybody. today's event is going to be a very special event because we have a distinguished scholar as our guest who's going to talk about Mexico City and the governance of this area and the spatial governance of Mexico as a state, and Mexico City as a huge city, one of the largest cities on the globe. This is the fourth episode in a series run at the Society for Urban Planning in Hungary. Previous episodes featured Berlin and Hamburg, Phoenix, Arizona, London in the UK, and now it's Mexico City. And Dr. Arturo Flores is a distinguished scholar, graduated from University of York in the UK, and he received his PhD again from the same institute. He's worked in numerous universities, at numerous workplaces, and now he's at the University of Anáhuac in Mexico City, and he's a member of the governing board of the Urban Affairs Association, and he's published many great articles in very well-known and high-prestige journals. So Dr. Flores, Arturo, the floor is yours, and we are very pleased and honored that you are here and give us a lecture. So, my friend, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Janos and Gabor. It's a pleasure to be here with you, sharing, well, some of the history of Mexico and Mexico City in particular. I will present, use a PowerPoint as a support for today's presentation. And I hope we end up having a very fruitful discussion about urban affairs in the context of Mexico City. So let me see if you can see there. Can you see the slides?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, I call this conference or this presentation Global Governance on the Ground, Governing Mexico Cities, Multi-Level and Metropolitan Governance in a Federal System, and how we have several challenges in how the municipio, which is the local government, interacts with the metropolis in such a complex environment. So to start, I would like to show you this roadmap. We have 6 questions here, and which are all related to the way local authorities work in the Mexican context. So we are talking about a 3-tier structure, which is basically, we're talking about a federal system, but also we are heavily influenced by the US type of state system. So we have a federation, which will be Mexico as a whole country, but also we have states. And then within each of these states, we have 31 states, plus the capital, which is Mexico City. And within the states, we have the municipalities or the local governments, based on the municipio as the main place where all the local activity takes place. Then we have the role of citizen municipio. So which is the role? Can we talk about cities on its own, or do we need to also involve local governments? Because this question seems like quite logic, but it isn't that logic in the Mexican context, and I will show you why. We also have a very large amount of regional inefficiencies. So we have one of the main aspects that we have has to do with how there is this fiscal dependency between the federal government and the local government itself. So we are talking that about 70% of the budget from the local government comes from the federal government. So we have an inefficiency to collect taxes or to tax there is a heavy influence of political reasons behind local authorities not collecting enough taxes, but we'll discuss that as well throughout the presentation. Also, we have the theme of sprawl and planning. You might wonder how this city works. Well, we all wonder that. It's a huge place, and although we have had like a lot of plans and planning is being done throughout the years, we still cannot say that we follow thoroughly those plans. So we end up having a mix of government actors and private sector actors defending or behind plans which are not fully put into practice, unfortunately. So when you have this type of relationship, and you add to this relationship clientelism, political interests, and others, corruption as well, well, you end up having a very disorganized city, which unfortunately the path is being followed by other places. So Mexico City has been an example, or I would say a bad example of how to develop other places, right? Because instead of solving those issues which are present in Mexico City, well, the new regions or the new states or the new cities are following the same trend, which is to grow in a very disorganized way. We have some metropolitan areas. The number has increased considerably in the last 20 years of the number of metropolitan areas that we have. So that is also another point that I'm going to talk about, and how service provision is being done, because the authority responsible for service provision in all these metropolitan areas, well, is the local authority. So how can we like maximize or make the best of the service provision when you have a fragmented structure which is not fully developed and organized? Okay, so these are some of the points that I'm going to be talking about today. Also, well, to start, we have this complexity that, well, as we all know, we have global frameworks which set up then the tone under which all these agendas will take place within countries. So we have, of course, the SDGs, we have urban agendas, or international treaties like the Paris Agreement also, which have been signed by Mexico in this case. But the complexity of implementing this at the local level, well, is really high, right? So we are talking about how the influence of global frameworks can be like taken first by the federal government under a national strategy, and then how that strategy is going to be taken to the 32 states, which then will transfer those strategies to 2,478 municipalities. So it's not an easy thing to do. This is a very difficult task, a very difficult challenge. So we're talking about one of the main problems that we have is that, well, as it is happening throughout the world, people are moving more to cities. So people now try to find a way of living in a city. And well, at the moment, we're talking that in the case of Mexico, 2/3 of the population live in 92 officially recognized metropolitan areas, okay? However, the Constitution doesn't have a chapter on metropolitan government. So this gap contributes to having a very well complex scenario, in the sense that, well, local governments seem to be disconnected from federal agendas or even global agendas. In some cases, well, we have municipalities or regional areas that are quite linked to the global agenda. So, but there is like, we have these disparities. We cannot see this as a constant, right? So there are a lot of gaps and confusions and legal things which are not sorted, and which things are trying to be improved, but it's not easy to think or to like say, well, that we have a solution to the problem, the main problem. So we have as I said at the beginning, it's a 3-tier type of government. So we're talking about a federal republic or a federal government, where you have the president, a bicameral Congress, the judiciary, and also, well, you have like all the secretaries or departments which are in charge of the national agenda. So we're talking about the ministries of the environment or finance or education, or this at this level we would see the federal government. Then we have the 32 state governments. So we have the governors, which are elected for a 6-year term. Also, I must add that the president is elected also for 6 years, and there is no re-election of the president. So it's just one term. For governors, we have the same. We have they are elected on a 6-year term. And well, state governments also approve, well, they receive a budget, part of the budget from the federal government, but also they are able to collect some taxes at the state level. And the state governments will be in charge of providing also part of their budget to local authorities. So I would say that the municipalities are like the weakest link in this chain of actors, because they are heavily dependent on the budget coming from the federal government and from the state governments. So I think there are only, out of 2,478 units, I would say that less than 10 are financially viable in the whole country. So that gives you a perspective of the high level of dependency that they have on federal and state governments, right? So Article 115, 115, it's the one which talks about how the local governments or the municipios have this it's obligation in a way, but it's also they were given by the Constitution a single clause which protects municipal autonomy from state interference. However, since they also want to build like metropolitan alliances, well, then this independence can be questioned heavily at times, because, of course, when you are talking about metropolitan areas, well, to call it in a way, in as it works with international relations, the sovereignty of the local government, it's under threat a bit, because, of course, you have to adapt to the interests of other actors, which also will be part of these metropolitan alliances, which are increasing in the Mexican context. So we have the structure that we have inside each municipality. We have a presidente municipal, which is the mayor. We have a síndicos, regidores, and everything here is like within each local government, it would be like having a mini Congress, which is formed by this figure of the síndico and regidores, which are like, they are elected to for 3 years, and they become like the watchdog of the local government. So you have, you know, the síndico, which oversees the municipal treasury and represents the municipio in legal matters. Then the regidores are they are elected on a proportional representation basis, and they approve regulations, plans, and the budget. And as I said before, we have this structure is based on elections which take place every 3 years. There have been a few amendments that were made in 2014. For example, they opened the possibility to be re-elected at the local level for 1 term. So you could have mayors that were voted for 2 terms in a row. So you could have 6 years of the same mayor. And but that was abandoned with this administration. They sent a reform to stop that. So now you cannot be re-elected. So it's only a 3-year term. And then after that term ends, you can wait for 1 term and then run again after a term has passed by. So there is no way that you could do it like 2 terms in a row. Now, this is something which is not very helpful, I would say, for long-term planning or for developing locally or regionally in the best possible way, because we will be looking at ways in which, since everything is only for 3 years, then we have a very short view of which are the plans or the actions that should be taken, right? So I think this very short terms of 3 years and even 6 years, that doesn't allow a lot of planning and a lot of things to be done, right? In the benefit of having, you know, more like I would say better plans and better things for mobility or that kind of thing, which would be you know, very important for metropolitan areas. And another element that we have to consider has to do with the fiscal reality. So, as I said before, local authorities can collect a property tax and service fees, but about 71% of municipal revenues come from federal and state transfers, right? So this puts, well, the local government in a very difficult position if we want to talk about how we should organize this, right? So we have another thing that we have in Mexico is that the reality of every region, it's completely the opposite of others. So we are talking about 32 states, well, 31 states plus Mexico City. We have 2,478 municipalities. And The state which has more municipalities is Oaxaca with 570. And the fewest, the one with the fewest municipalities is Baja California Sur, where you have Los Cabos. Maybe you have heard of Los Cabos. It's a very nice place. But here I would like to highlight the fact that although the Mexican Constitution talks about how Mexico is divided into these local governments, in the case of Mexico City, they are not called municipios, they are called alcaldías. And this a reform was made in 2016 in Mexico City to change the figure and to try to adapt it to being municipios, right? So when you see Mexico City, we are talking about a metropolitan area where you have about 8 million people, 9 million people compose Mexico City with the 16 local governments. However, when you talk about the metropolitan area, you end up having up to 22, 23 million because you add all the outskirts of Mexico City. But all these people living in the outskirts, they do not live in Mexico City. Actually, they live in another state and in other municipalities. But we are talking about a very large metropolitan area that, as I said before, it has grown in a very disorganized way. So we end up having all the traffic and all the pollution that we have here is caused mainly because you have these people traveling from the outskirts to Mexico City, right? Because they have to work here. And this means that some of them will drive maybe 2 or 3 hours on a daily basis, 2 or 3 hours one way and 2 to 3 hours the other way. So about 4 to 6 hours per day, people will drive to get to a job which is in Mexico City, right? So this means that we have around between, for example, around 5 to 6 million people travel on a daily basis using the underground. But then you have between 1.6 and 2.5 people traveling by car on a daily basis, which they want to come to work here, and then in the evening they have to leave Mexico City. So, however, during the day they use all the services that we have in Mexico City. So, as I said, it's a very complex relationship between how the metropolitan areas work and, you know, how we can try to fix this situation. So this is talking about administrative organization. Well, in our terms, we wouldn't call a city the same as a municipio. As I said before, we have a political units which not necessarily share the same geography, okay? So, for example, a municipio contains one locality, right? But then, if we talk about cities, cities can also occupy more than one municipality, right? So then we end up having, well, what we know as metropolitan areas. As I said before, we have Mexico City, which is an exception to this rule because in Mexico City, the local governments, which are 16, are called alcaldías or boroughs. And, you know, here we also have elections. And here we also have a figure of each local borough. But they do not operate in the same way as the municipalities, right? So part of the messiness in which Mexico City has been developing I would say for the last maybe 40 years has to do with these legal ways in which it is clear, but it isn't that clear about how they operate. So, for example, in the case of the normal, you know, in brackets, local governments or municipios work outside of Mexico City, there is a very clear path that they are dependent on federal funding and state funding. But in the case of Mexico City, this is different because in Mexico City, they are more dependent on the resources which are given by the authority of Mexico City. So they also receive funding from the federal government, but everything is more like, I would say, like they are highly dependent on having a good relationship with the government in turn, which runs Mexico City. Because if the government in turn running Mexico City is against you as one of these mayors or leader of these 16 boroughs, then your budget will be cut immediately. So here we have a very high dependent relationship between how good or bad relationship you have with the governor of Mexico City. So if you have a good relationship with the governor of Mexico City, you will have funding, you will have projects, you will have many things. If you have a bad relationship, then, you know, things are not going to go necessarily your way, right? So one of the main things that we are concerned about has to do with regional inefficiency, right? So we have, I would say, one of the most dependent system on the political cycle. What do I mean by this? I mean that here, the political cycle of elections has or is the priority given by all these people who are elected at the local level. So the political mind of these politicians, you know, has affected badly the way that the development of this country has been taking place, and Mexico City is not the exception to the rule. So you have, since we have elections every 3 years, well, this means that you are politically thinking the whole time, right? And this means that many projects have to be done under a lot of pressure and in a very speedy way, without any planning, without any consultation, without any. So many projects that we have here are imposed by authorities. And this brings other types of stress between the governors and the population. So, for example, recently, throughout the World Cup, just to give you an example, we had the current governor of Mexico City, she had the brilliant idea to paint all the city, or many parts of the city, like the infrastructure in the streets. Like there is a norm, an international norm, that, for example, the sidewalks have to be painted in yellow, which is international. Well, she started to paint everything purple, just because that is the color. She made a link between that color and the color of her political party, right? So everything was painted like red, but like brick red, that kind of color, and purple. So the city looked really ugly because everything was painted like that. Like many parts of infrastructure were painted in those colors. And she was heavily criticized. So she had to redo the whole thing that she painted at the beginning, and to like following an international norm, which was in yellow, right? So these kind of things, which are quite surreal, happen when you have these inefficiencies. And as I said before, also, since there is a lot of fiscal dependency, well, this also opens a debate about how, whether a reform is required. But this fiscal, I think that from my perception, local governments are so dependent on federal budget, because everything is based on political reasons, as I said before. So the leaders of these local governments do not want to charge people, because they believe that if they charge people, then they are not going to vote for them in the next election, which is something stupid, because how come you are going to end up having the resources for improving the quality of the services, the roads, or building big infrastructure projects, if you are always thinking in political terms? So politics is at the core of the main problems that we're facing here, in not only in Mexico City, but as I said before, in many municipalities throughout the country. You see this happening. Unfortunately, the system, the political system that we have, is short-term based, and we don't have these long-term planning processes. So, but anyway, so if we talk about planning, development, and maintenance, so here we're talking about how, well, there is a relationship between the private sector, the public sector, in themes like housing, for example. For many years, housing, in the case of Mexican cities, well, every state has been doing the best they can in terms of providing solutions for housing. However, as I said before, we have had many plans that unfortunately have failed, because we do not do the process properly. So we end up building houses in places which are quite far from the places people work, and without a coherent road infrastructure, or the planning is not the best. So you end up having or creating more traffic and making it more problematic for these people to travel from the outskirts of Mexico City, for example, to the city center. So this kind of relationship, well, is not, even seen as a problem by many politicians, because since they are in a short-term way of thinking, as long as they offer the houses, then they have accomplished something. They provided a solution, right? But they forget about the rest of how are these people going to get there? Are they in schools? How many hours will they have to drive? Are the roads okay? So cities have been, growing, and you see it in maps, and it's very dramatic for the last 20, 25 years, how you have this sprawls in many places, which actually are based on solutions which are more on the side of being a political program than actually being done by experts, right? So the value of the expert here is not present. So you end up having, very, very hard situations for people that, have to travel for 2 or 3 hours and take maybe 3 buses and then the metro and then another transport system, and it's it cannot be, it's not viable to see how this system will be working. So as I said before, well, Mexican cities have been growing, and we have an institution that finances these houses, providing credits. However, well, the thing is that this office prioritizes cheap peripheral land. So we don't have the transit access or the local plans, which are fit in agreement with this housing complexes which are built, right? So, and as I said before, there are many plans that have been made. The bad thing about this, or the sad thing, is that they are not being followed properly. So this is like, housing, urban development, and transport policy is practically non-existent, or when you have it, it's not integrated fully, right? So you end up having these peripheries disorganized and without any structure, and actually working like independent, actors, right? So there have been some attempts to turn this curve in terms of the sprawling. We're talking about redensification of the center. So Mexico City has been moving to densifying 4 central boroughs, which are Cuauhtémoc, Miguel Hidalgo, Benito Juárez, and Venustiano Carranza. So, however, this redensification today has been under a lot of criticism, because especially in these areas, what is happening today is that you're having foreigners coming to live here. We call them digital nomads, and we have a very, very large number now living, especially in these boroughs, which are being redensified. So there is a perverse correlation between how these neighborhoods have been developed and the number of foreigners that you have living here permanently now. So there was a movement even about how well, the people, the locals that used to live in these areas, they cannot afford it anymore. So now, additional to the people that normally migrates from other states to Mexico City, you have people from Mexico City that were living in these central areas now being like moved to the outskirts. So practically forced to leave the center because the prices are so high that you cannot live there anymore. You cannot afford it, right? We have also national planning instruments like the SEDATU. However, these plans have not really worked over the last 6 years or so because they remain as projects which are built but they are not linked to a network. That's my daughter. Sorry, I apologize. So since they are not bought, they are not constructed in this vision of, being built as part of a system, then we cannot talk about a coherent national planning instrument, right? And then the housing office, Infonavit, as well. They, in theory, they are planning to build 1 million houses in throughout this administration. So I don't know if they will be able to make it, but to me, well, I haven't seen the plans or how they are planning to do it. What I've heard of is that they are going after previous projects that fail and try to make them viable. I do not know whether that strategy is actually going to work, but we'll see. Well, there has been an increase in the number of metropolitan areas from 55 to 92 over the last 25 years, right? So this means that we have, for example, now local governments or municipios combining very large populations. But we have the issue of how these metropolitan areas are being constructed. And unfortunately, what we are seeing is that they are following the same steps of Mexico City, which is based on large urban sprawl and not growing or not improving conditions based on mobility or improving mobility or facilitating public transport or that kind of thing. So the car remains at the core of these metropolitan areas, including Mexico City, of course, right? So this is, here we see some of the metropolitan areas and the populations they have. So we're talking about 1.4 million, 1.5, 1.6, up to 21.8, which is the Valley of Mexico, or where Mexico City is, we can see it, right? So the problem with Mexico City that we have is that it offers so many things that people find it very attractive. So we have a place that brings people now, not only from Mexico, but from other countries as well, to live. And my main concern now deals with how the resources will be, or the resource provision or the service provision will be sorted, right? Because we have a very, very huge problem today with water, with public transport, with traffic, and we don't have, we cannot expand anymore. Mexico City has already grown so much that we are covering other states now around Mexico City, right? So the growth has been so disorganized that we are now like growing and without any limits, basically. The city is getting more expensive at the center, and less and less people are able to find housing affordable at the city center because of these reasons, right? So one of the main problems that we have has to do with how to coordinate like the governance of the cities and the metropolitan areas. So in the case of Mexico City, we're talking about a commission that was made between this Mexico City and the state of Mexico, which is another state, to look at how to fix sectoral metropolitan areas, commissions for the environment, water and drainage, human settlements, transport, public security, civic protection, and economic development and health were created. However, sometimes we do not find the best coordination between these instruments of governance and how they should work in practice. So there are many policies which require a higher degree of coordination between governments because, of course, we are talking of larger areas. Myself, a few years ago, I worked for an agency. It's called Social Development Agency. It's based in Mexico City, but it tries to coordinate the efforts with other states. I can tell you that those meetings were, very difficult to organize, and the discussions were endless because, of course, everyone has its own position and everyone is trying to protect its own interest. And sadly, most of the interests are political interests. They are not even about security or civil protection or economic development. It's all based on elections, so that doesn't help very much. The funding also for all these institutions has to be provided by the federal government. But then if the federal government is from one party and the local or the Metropolis Commission, they are from another party, then you could also have bias for the funding, for the planning and everything, right? So that also makes very, very complex. Well, just to make a wrapping up this session. Well, the problem with metropolitan areas that we have is that they do not have a known elected government, right? An independent budget or taxing power, right? So we are talking about the fact that they are dependent on coordinating the mechanisms led by states, and they cannot become like a fourth tier of government, right? So we will say that this puts all this metropolitan development in ways that make it very hard for mayors and for local governments to be part of these projects. Here I have some of the public services which are provided in the metropolitan areas. We see water, drainage, waste collection, public light, street light, police, traffic, basic education, urban planning, housing, and looking at air quality as well. So what does this mean for implementing global governance? Well, what we're looking is that we can find, I would say that the main thing that we have is a huge implementation gap and coordination problems, and how the metropolitan areas could implement the global projects, the SDGs, the new urban agenda, climate targets, etc. Right? So when we have such a vast territory, and then in the case of the metropolitan areas, political interests mixed with other types of agendas, then this makes it even harder for all these programs to be part of a coherent or a very targeted urban planning and urban development. So I will stop here, and I'm open for your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arturo. It was very exciting, and I think it offered a brilliant insight into Mexico's urban system problems, governance problems, and political system intertwined with each other, which I think is very useful. And I think it was really interesting to see how this ban on intermediary level between government and the municipalities, which seemed to be a good idea, I think, like more than 100 years ago, affect the present system, and it may not be adapted to the new realities.
I guess the main issue here deals with the political system that we have, because when you base everything on elections or winning elections, and that is the way to keep power and to offer your view to the people who voted for you, then in the long run, I think this doesn't really help, because I have been to many municipalities where you have one party ruling, doing a great job, and then losing an election, and then the guy who wins basically gets rid of all the previous work, right? And then they start from scratch again. And this is very common, it's very common, and it happens everywhere. I mean, it's not a Mexican thing, but it's although I believe in democracy and democratic values, at times I do question or wonder whether we should have more technical, or like to divide the technical side of development from the politics, because you have many politicians making technical decisions without any knowledge. So, and then you end up having these projects which are in the middle of nowhere, no one benefited, or which were made really quickly, and they do not have a proper environmental analysis of the impact, that kind of thing, right? So it's very tough to see, and very sad to see how public resources, public funding is used more for political purposes than for development. Yeah.
It is very interesting listening to your presentation, because nowadays in Hungary there is a discussion how should we limit or not limit the re-election of mayors after 8 years, not 3 but 8 years. But I'm just thinking on it that if there is no chance to be re-elected because it is bad, why the politicians are keen on the political will of the voters at all? They cannot lose an election next time because they are not able to participate in the election at all. So it could be a very good incentive not to think shortly. So maybe I'm just thinking on that. What is the position? What is the political career of local politicians in Mexico? So if you could not be a local politicians anymore, then what is the local politicians do? They are apply for a national position of something or some So what is the what is the incentives behind the political
well the path here for a politician is you start at the local level. You can start, for example, local congressman, right? And then you go as a mayor, municipality, right? Then the next one, you will run for federal congressman.
And there is no limitation as a federal congressman.
There is no limitation because it's a different position, right?
Okay.
So you cannot re-elect in the same position, but you can move to another position, right?
So if you are unpopular at local level, you will not gain the position of a congressman.
Exactly.
So maybe this is the is the perspective that limits you. Okay, I'm turning to something else. You showed us that in the last 25 years, the number of municipal government growing up from 50 to 92, as I remember the numbers. But if I look at the numbers, it is not the last 25 years, but just only the last 10 years, because in 2010 there was 59, and in 2020 it was 92. So why was this growing occurred? Because the speeding up of the suburbanization, which means that more and more cities became larger, or there are statistical reasons behind that. Maybe legally or statistically more municipal government will be defined in somewhere in the statistics or in the legal system, or because there are some extra sources. If you define yourself and your neighborhood as a municipal area, then you will get some extra sources from the government. So what is the incentive behind of this growing, or not only incentive, but is it an incentive, or is it is a real population concentration?
It has to do with population, but also it has to do with how the impact of things like, for example, the agreement that we have with the US in terms of trade. Excuse me. And also, population has been growing. We have 130 million people now, more or less. And what we have seen in the last years is that, we have a very large issue of migration. All the migration that comes from, South America, you have some, Venezuela, especially Colombia, and all Central America, that want to go to the US. When they are stopped, they stay here, right?
And they have no money to buy flats inside the city, so they are going to the suburbs.
No, exactly. And they are doing the jobs that the Mexicans do not want to do. So now it is very common to go to the supermarket and see people from Haiti like doing all the heavy work. Or if you go to construction, any construction site, you will have people from Venezuela or other places like doing that kind of work. So in a way, I would say that it's a multifactorial thing. So first you have a growth in the population, then you have the fact that many regions have been specializing in the production of things for the Americans, right? So food production or car production or manufacturing in general, right? So around these areas, of course, you have more people coming, working there. You end up having a need for housing, for roads, for infrastructure in general. So that's why you have seen this growth in the number of metropolitan areas from 55 to 92, right? Because you have all these new phenomena, more people coming. You have, more even the large corporations that come bring their own people, right? So if you have like Siemens or I don't know 3M or Fuji, whatever, they will bring their own people too, right? So these people, of course, they need a place to live, they need schools, they need everything, right? So I think we are becoming more cosmopolitan in that sense also, and every region is now I would say specializing in something, right? So for example, in the north you see like all the microchip chip industry and car industry being developed. In the center you see other types of developments. And I didn't mention, but also, drug trafficking plays a big role in all this scenario, right? So additional to all these legal issues and politics and so on and so forth, you have now drug lords running elections, political parties, controlling local authorities. So that kind of thing is happening too.
So maybe the local politicians are not stable, but the local parties are stable. Financed by some background money.
Of course, yeah. Which is why the U.S. are now so concerned about security themselves, because they saw an increase in the number of territories within Mexico where you have drug lords controlling vast areas, right? Which are in most cases, they are not like, because maybe you would say, oh, but I do not see these guys here in the city center. Well, maybe they are not in the city center, but they own the hotel and they own the car agency and the whatever, So they are there, but they are not there. So, or they can finance someone to win an election, right?
Yeah.
Or they can finance or they can finance the party and then tell the party, well, you know what? I am going to be the treasurer of this municipality, right? That kind of thing happens too. So, and these are all like new problems, new things which have happened in the last 10 years, 15 years. And but this is like, I show you like the legal side, the like the normal, what you would expect, right? But you also have a lot of informal things happening. Yeah.
So
I have a question related to that. So from your presentation, it wasn't explicitly stated that the people who work for local administration are heavily reliant on the mayor. So there's nothing like a sort of autonomous body of officials who run, I mean, of public servants who run the municipalities, and the mayor is in charge of like controlling but not running, like in many cases in the US. So it's like more like this the council mayor structure in the US, where the mayor controls basically everything. And if the mayor is controlled by the local political power structure, then basically the municipality itself is very dependent on the local strong guys, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I would say that you have that kind of the same feeling that you have in a US, as you said it, in the US, where you have the mayor, which is a very powerful figure. In the case of Mexico, they try to balance a bit things, providing this figure of a they call it cabildo, which is like a local congress, and via proportional representation, you will have people from other parties. In theory, to not I would say to put some pressure or a sort of a shadow government for the mayor in charge, right? Yeah, well, that is a very good intention, but if you have drug lords or other political interests being played, then you end up having totalitarian regimes at the local level, because there is no counterbalance. No one is going to question anything. Yeah. So that happens a lot too. It's a system where you go all the way to the right or all the way to the left, or but there is no counterbalance or way to. Yeah.
Okay, may I turn to another issue, which is not from politics but from sources and decisions, or what cooperation rather. As far as I understand, there are some so-called municipal sources which could be gained only if you are part of a municipal area cooperation. Who get these sources? The individual local governments or the association of local governments together? Who spend this money? They spend individually, or they have to agree on the spending?
No, that is a problem, that they have to do it through the body which is established. So they cannot do it individually. So the federal government started to see that metropolitan areas were growing, so they decided to create this a special budget for metropolitan issues, right? So within each metropolitan areas, you have a number of localities that belong to each, right? So the budget is assigned by the federal government to X metropolitan area, right? To fix a very particular problem. And then from then you would say, okay, the mayor or the local government of this one and the local government of this one all the works will take place there, right? And each of these local governments will be responsible about that money, right?
So they have to agree on something before they spend it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I mean that 100% agreement should be given because all of the municipalities are all of the local governments responsible for the whole money. So if they are not agreed on it,
exactly.
Are they able to agree on it or not?
Well, at times they are able because the problem is really bad. Like, for example, here, every raining season, there is a big problem with the sewage in the metropolitan area. So if you do not fix it, well, it's going to happen the whole time. So every year, money is provided to solve that problem of sewage, right? And it's given to those municipalities that have to solve it, right? And it sounds very nice until implementation, because then
that's the question.
Yeah. Then when they spend it and they do the project, then if the thing doesn't work, then there's going to be a problem, right? Because you end up not only affecting your municipality, but all the metropolitan area, right? So that's why in most cases, what they do is try to bring outsiders to do the projects. So to not let them do the project themselves, because you will have corruption or the project is not going to be the best quality. So you end up doing like bringing an external actor so that that the project will work, right?
But practically, as I understand your point, this one is for development, not for maintenance or not for running service, just for development. And in a public procurement service, they together outsource it to some external
exactly
developer.
Yes.
So somehow, practically, this one is able to fix some problems, but with the low control of politics.
Yeah, for example, they here in Mexico City, they have started to build like this. I don't remember the word, if it's teleférico. Do you know the word teleférico or teleférico? Which is like the ones that you have in the ski resorts, right? The lifts, the ski lifts. Yeah. Well, funicular. Yeah, exactly. So now they have started to build for the high parts of Mexico City. They have started to build funiculares, right? But the company that builds this is Austrian, right? Yeah, it's not Mexican or Peruvian or whatever, because they know it's an issue of security, right? So you wouldn't give that project to one of these guys, right? So it wouldn't work, right? So that you can have that kind of thing, that if you have a really big project or something which is was going to be expensive, very expensive, whatever, then you hire an expert, knowing that you do not have the expertise, right?
Okay, but it means that the local governments do not need to put their own money to this development. They get an extra source, they spend it.
Yeah.
With no political risk.
This is federal budget. So
okay. It's strange. I do not say that it's a bad solution if there is no middle tier at all, which is very similar to what Hungary has now. That we have some middle tier, but with no political power on the local level to force them to do some common project. So if they had a external source for this, not middle tier, but for any kind of tier, which is not missing from the local government, but then all of the extra sources solve some problem somehow, maybe expensive one, but sooner or later they will solve the problem. of missing development infrastructure.
Exactly. See, the idea is that these metropolitan commissions bring up with solutions which are viable and which are part of a new system which is being built, right? So especially, now we have a lot of traffic problems in every metropolitan area. The traffic is really bad. So sometimes these commissions provide, for example, the solution to bring public transport or trains, which could, take people within these metropolitan areas, right? But I would say that the main problems have to do with, the funding itself, which are, if you want to fix mobility within one of these areas, it would cost a lot, probably. Unfortunately, most of these commissions perceive building more roads as the best solution for traffic, which is not. I don't think it's not a solution, right? So having 3 roads instead of 1.
3 times higher traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there is a lack of expertise in these areas too. So and I would say that the role of the expert is diminished by the politician. So whatever the expert brings to the equation, which could be a very good solution, if the politician puts his or her influence or under threat, he would say, no, we'll do my solution, right? So we could end up having very, very good solutions, which end up at the bottom of a drawer somewhere in a desk, never put in practice because of political interest, right? So I think that one of the main things that I believe that if we look at countries like in Asia and other places, they always try to separate politics from the technical side. If you look at countries like Singapore or that kind of context, which is not entirely democratic, but in the long run, they provide solutions which are viable, long term, and they really work because you have the technicians doing it, the technical people, not the politicians.
Yeah, maybe it's easier for a drug lord to buy a technician than to buy politicians, isn't it? So maybe the financing behind it an issue in these examples. Maybe.
Well, you have drug lords that kidnap experts.
Yeah.
Chemists or whatever, and they work for them. So they are the best, right?
If there is no political control somehow in the end, then maybe it's not always the best solution. So maybe some local political control of the voters need to be there. Okay, may I turn back to this common infrastructure, which is paid from the municipal budget?
Yeah.
But the infrastructure which is built in the end will be run commonly or individually by the local governments? I mean that how it will be financed in the long run?
Infrastructure?
Yeah, If the sewage system for an area. Then who run the sewage company?
The sewage company is run by the local government. Yes.
I mean, if there is 50 local governments, then it is split to 50 companies, or they will have a common company?
Each local government will have one company running the service provision of water and sewage.
Okay, so if they manage to build a common sewage system, then maybe the sewage system will be split into individual companies to run in the end.
Yeah.
Wow, it doesn't sound so a long-run solution.
No, it's not the best solution, but the thing is that each municipality has the legal attribute, like to provide the services.
Okay.
So they have to provide water, they have to provide sewage, garbage collection, and well, they charge the local tax, property tax, right? So those services are provided by the local authority. The problem is that, well, due to the disparities that you have throughout the country, in some localities, they do not have the capabilities, right? So you end up having a very bad provision of water or a non-existent provision of sewage. So you end up with your sewage in a river because there is no water treatment plant.
Which is a problem of your neighborhood, local government, not yours.
Which is, yeah, but you do not, if you do not provide this kind of solution, then who's going to do it, right? The other problem is that local governments, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them, do not want to charge for the provision of these services. So they provide the service, and then they say, okay, well, for example, if I don't pay the water bill, nothing happens to me. I will keep on receiving water, right? And sewage, right? Because they believe that if I charge, if you pay, then you wouldn't vote for me in the next election, right? So you end up having a terrible provision of water because you have no resources to run it, right? So that's why if you I do not know if you have looked at the statistics of bottled water drinking in Mexico or consumption of Coca-Cola in Mexico, we are number one.
So finally you pay for it in a different way.
Yeah, and it's more expensive than the service.
Yes.
Because it's more expensive because then it becomes a health issue. If you drink Coca-Cola every day, imagine as drinking water. Instead of water, you drink Coca-Cola. Imagine that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we discussed lots of things, and I think Dr. Flores gave us an excellent presentation on Mexico's problems. Probably it was a bit somber at the end. We should have cheered up the audience a bit, but I think it was very useful.
Yeah.
And with lots of consequences.
Yeah, I hope I didn't depress you a lot, but
no, you haven't. No, you haven't. But it was extremely useful. So we are really honored, Arturo, that you gave us this presentation. I think we learned a lot, and our audience will learn a lot from what you have said.
Okay.
And
well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arturo.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, and my pleasure. And I hope we do it again sometime.
Okay. Yeah, we should.
We will.
We will. And we hope to meet you in Budapest sometime.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The official part is over.
Great.
It was really a pleasure, Arturo. It was very, very nice. And as Gabo said, our government is presently thinking on reforming the election system by introducing this, this 1 or 2 term system in Hungary too. And yeah, we are sort of like afraid of the consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, you could save some time learning from others' mistakes. So
yeah. Exactly.
As always,
exactly.
not only the best practice, but the worst practice is much more interesting for
Exactly.
before doing some reform.
Before doing it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Again, thank you much. This was a very exhausting 1.5 hours, and thank you for the presentation. It was excellent. So
yeah. Thank you. So
okay. So we will cut somehow the recording and showing you back. If something is wrong, don't hesitate to just tell us and we will fix it somehow.
Okay, great.
But we will spread it over among the Hungarian urban planners to learn, maybe before we do something.
Okay.
Wrong. What could be a mistake in this system? And maybe it help us.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day, and have a how can I say, successful contribution to the match.
Yeah.
The game.
Let's hope for the best. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. And enjoy.
To be noisy in the match to support your team. So okay.
Yeah.
See you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you, Arturo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.